She was only 6 years old, clutching a backpack almost bigger than her tiny frame when she slipped into the one place no one expected, a biker clubhouse in the dead of night. Her eyes were wide with fear, her voice trembling as she begged strangers to hide her from the man she called Daddy. What could drive a child to run alone through darkness, risking everything just to escape? And more importantly, what did she carry in that backpack that would change their lives forever? Emma was just a little girl who should have been worrying about dolls and picture books, not survival. Her world was small. School, the playground, and the pink backpack her mother had given her. That bag carried crayons, cookies, and the kind of treasures only a child values. But behind her smile was a truth no child should bear. At home, shadows stretched longer than daylight. Fear lived in every corner, whispered through slammed doors and broken promises. She had learned to stay quiet, to hide, to watch. And when her mother didn't wake up one night, Emma realized the only person left to fear was the one she should have been able to trust most. Emma's escape didn't happen by accident. It was desperation that pushed a 6-year-old to run through empty highways at night, following broken white lines the way her mother once showed her. Every step was a gamble. If her father's car appeared, she knew she wouldn't get another chance, and yet she kept moving, clutching the pink backpack that felt heavier with every mile. Inside wasn't just food or toys. It carried secrets her father never thought she'd be brave enough to take. When Emma stumbled into the biker's garage, it wasn't just fear in her eyes. It was exhaustion, the look of a child who had seen too much. She whispered the truth: her mother was gone and her father had made sure of it. But the most chilling detail was what Emma carried as proof. Hidden between juice boxes and a tattered notebook were photos, grainy images of bruises, blood, and terror. A flash drive, a blood-stained knife. Evidence too damning to be ignored. The men around her weren't saints. They were outlaws hardened by years of battles with the world. But even they froze. They had seen violence, lived by it, but never through the eyes of a child. And when Emma said her father was coming back with friends, their blood ran cold. Because those friends weren't just ordinary men. They were cartel, dangerous and untouchable, the kind of people law enforcement often looked away from, especially when the victims were people like Emma and her mother. This wasn't just a family tragedy. It was a collision with a system stacked against her. Her father had power, connections, and protection. Emma had only a backpack in the hope that strangers might care enough to stand between her and the nightmare chasing her. The roar of engines outside made it clear time had run out. Headlights cut through the darkness as cars pulled up. Her father was here, shouting her name, demanding what belonged to him. But behind the rage in his voice was something more dangerous: fear. Fear of what Emma had taken, fear of what she could expose. The bikers exchanged looks. They knew this wasn't just about one terrified girl anymore. What she carried threatened an empire. 3 car doors slammed shut. Heavy footsteps echoed. Guns glinted in the light. Emma's small body shook as she clutched her backpack tighter, but she refused to move. Her father's words sliced through the night. "Give me the girl, or everyone here dies." The garage went silent. For a moment, it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. The outlaws had a choice: hand her over and walk away, or make themselves enemies of something much bigger than they'd ever faced. And then Emma stepped forward, standing barely 4 feet tall, staring down men twice the size of her uncles, armed and dangerous. She wasn't just holding on to evidence. She was holding on to justice her mother never got. What she did next stunned even the bikers who had seen everything. The garage shook with the rumble of engines outside. Emma's father stepped into the light, his shadow stretching across the floor like a monster returning to claim what he thought was his. His voice was venom, sharp and commanding. "That's my daughter. Hand her over now." Emma's tiny frame trembled, but her grip on the backpack tightened. The bikers stood between her and danger, yet the weight of the moment pressed down on everyone. Guns raised, eyes locked, the air was thick enough to choke on. And then, Emma did the unthinkable. She stepped out from behind the wall of leather and steel, her voice breaking but steady enough to pierce the night. "No, you don't own me." The words were small, but they hit harder than any bullet. Her father's face twisted with rage. He lunged forward, his men flanking him, but the bikers didn't move aside. For the first time, someone stood in his way. Emma's little backpack hit the floor, spilling open. Photos scattering, the knife glinting, the flash drive sliding across concrete. Every secret he thought buried was now in plain sight. For a split second, silence swallowed the chaos. Then came the sound. The cock of a gun, the click that meant there was no turning back. Emma closed her eyes, bracing for the end. But what happened next changed everything. The bikers didn't back down. They closed ranks around her, engines roaring to life, drowning out her father's threats. The smell of gasoline filled the air as headlights blazed like fire against the night. And in that moment, Emma wasn't just a frightened little girl. She was proof, living proof, that his power wasn't untouchable. The standoff had reached its breaking point. One wrong move and blood would spill. 1 second of hesitation and Emma's story would end here. And then, one shot rang out. The shot that echoed in the night didn't hit Emma. It didn't hit the bikers. It tore into the silence, a warning, reminding everyone that this was no longer just a family struggle but a battle against something deeper. Emma's father was forced back, his fury powerless against the wall of defiance standing before him. For the first time, the monster she feared most was no longer untouchable. Emma was taken in, small hands finally safe inside the calloused palms of men who chose to protect rather than destroy. But safety didn't erase the scars. The memories of running barefoot in the dark, of begging strangers for help, of carrying proof in her backpack that no one had dared to speak of before, those would never vanish, became part of her story. Story of survival in a world that too often refuses to listen when the victim is small, the victim is poor, the victim is black. It wasn't just Emma's fight. It was a mirror, reflecting the countless children silenced by fear, ignored by institutions that should have protected them, judged by the color of their skin before a word ever left their mouths. Courage exposed one truth. Silence protects the abuser. Voice, no matter how small, shatter chains. The question remains, how many more little girls like Emma will be forced to run, to hide before we decide that enough is enough?